So students, as CR meeting is going on from 3:30 to 4:30. So if students have any kind of problem related to their subjects, subject allocation, their results, their marking scheme, then they can discuss their issues with higher authorities. Fine. So the topic that we will discuss today is stepwise project planning. Along with this topic, we will discuss three more topics, small topics. Fine. So the content that we will cover today is introduction to stepwise project planning, different steps, and the software process models, software process activities, and choice of process models. So these all are four different topics of our syllabus. Fine. So we'll start with the introduction part of stepwise project planning. So in the introduction part, we have the framework described is called stepwise method to help to distinguish it from the other methods such as Prince2. Prince2, what is Prince2? We discussed the Prince2 model when we discussed the choice of strategy. We discussed different project strategies. At that time, we discussed a small topic that is Prince2. So Prince2 is a set of project management standards that have been published by the Central Computing and Telecommunication Agency, that is called as CCTA, for use on British government IT projects. So the Prince2 technology, Prince2 methodology is used by British government IT projects. So standards are also widely used on non-government projects in UK. Fine. So now we have different steps of stepwise project planning. So first we have select project. So before working on project, our first task, our initial phase from where we will start is firstly select project. And this is also called step 0. This is also called step 0. Fine. Because in a way it is outside the main project planning process. When we will select a project, after that our planning for project, for design, for implementation is started. But this is the initial, this is step 0. So proposed projects do not appear out of the thin air. Some process must decide to initiate this project rather than some other. Fine. So in this we have first identify objectives and measures of effectiveness in meeting them. Fine. So what we will cover in this, that identify objectives and measures of effectiveness in meeting them. What do you understand by this step? Hurry up, students. I'm audible? Are you listening me? Okay. Okay, tell me, what is this step is about? Identify objectives and measures of effectiveness in meeting them. So we will define our objectives and we will clear our measures of effectiveness to meet those objectives. Fine. So the activities in this step ensure that all the parties to the project agree on the objectives and committed to success of the project. Both parties, the development party and the customer side party, all have to sign a document about the objectives, that what these are our objectives and how we'll achieve these objectives and by what effectiveness we will meet them. Fine. So second step is establish a project authority. What we will cover in this? Establish a project authority. We'll choose a manager. We'll choose a authority person. Fine. So after that, identify all the stakeholders in the project and their interests. We'll identify all stakeholders, those will use the project and their interest. What are their interests? We know stakeholders can be from within the team, within the organization and outside the organization. So their interest is depending on the requirements of the organization, of the team. Fine. So next we have modify objectives in the light of stakeholder analysis. Sorry. So initially we define some objectives, but now the customer's requirements are changed, so we need to modify our objectives according to the requirement of customer. Fine. So next we have establish methods of communications with all parties. We will call meetings, we will analyze their requirement, we will analyze their views, what they want, and we will establish some methods of communication with all parties. We will communicate with all people, those are related to the project, and do the needful. I hope this step is clear to everyone. Yes or no? Okay. So second step is identify project infrastructure. So we all know about the term infrastructure, and we will identify project infrastructure. So we are going to develop a project. So we will do nothing in the vacuum, nothing in the air. We need some infrastructure, we need some components, we need some platform to development of project. Fine. So we will identify those things. So there are usually some kind of existing infrastructure into which the project must fit. So where project managers are new to the organization, they must find out the precise nature of this infrastructure. So this could be the case where the project manager works for an outside organization carrying out the work for a client. So infrastructure may vary according to the project manager, whether he is within the organization or outside the organization. So under this, we will have first further step, that is establish relationship between the project and strategic planning. So now we have a project, we have its objectives. Now we will create a strategic plan to implement that project. So now we need to create the relationship between the project and strategic planning. So under this, how project portfolio management supported the selection of the projects to be carried out by an organization. Also, how program management can ensure that the group of projects contribute to a common organization strategy. How different projects can work uh, with each other under one umbrella, within an organization, parallel projects, all these things. So next we have identify installation standards and procedures. Identify installation standards and procedures. So under this, any organization that develops software should define their development procedures. Firstly, so as a minimum, the normal stages in the software life cycle to be carried out should be documented along with the products created at each stage. Moreover, change control and configuration management standards should be in place to ensure that changes to requirements are implemented in a safe and orderly way. And we will create quality standards and procedure manual under this also. Fine. And the third step under identify project infrastructure, that is identify project team organization. So what we will understand by this term, that is project team organization. We will organize our team. Suppose we have 10 people in our team, then we will decide which person will do what kind of work. Fine. So projects leaders, especially in the case of large projects, might have some control over the way that their project team is to be organized. So often though the organizational structure will be dictated to them. For example, a high-level managerial decision might have been taken that the software developers and business analysts will be in different groups. The organization may be in that manner. So this is our development team, this is our testing team, this is our final testing team, and this is our analyst team, these are managers, that kind of organization. So we will identify the whole project infrastructure. I hope this step is clear to everyone. Yes, everyone? Not few students? What about others? So third step is analyze project characteristics. So we know the term that project characteristics, different features of project, different characteristics of project. So we will analyze those things. We will define the characteristics. Fine. So the general purpose of this part of the planning operation is to ensure that the appropriate methods are to be used for the projects. So firstly, we have distinguish the project as either objective or product driven. So as development of the system advances, it tends to become more product driven. although the underlying objectives always remain must be respected. So project should be product driven. So next we have analyze other project characteristics. What are other project characteristics? Like including quality based ones, quantity based ones, that kind of characteristics. For example, in an information system to be developed or a process control system, or will there be elements of both? So will the system be safely critical, where human life could be threatened by the malfunction? All that kind of characteristics. We will analyze all like quality, safety, that kind of features, characteristics. Fine. So next we have identify high level project risk. So this is a previous lecture topic, that is risk management. We discussed what kind of risk we have, what is their impact, and how we can solve, how we can analyze that is the risk is a low level, high level, medium, or critical. So we will identify all kind of risk. So what we discussed in that, we have a probability, we have impact, and we will calculate the quantity, we will quantify risk according to the values of probability and risk, whether it is high, whether it is low, whether it is medium or critical. And next we have take into account user requirements concerning implementation. So the clients may have their own personal requirements, maybe. So for example, an organization might mandate the use of particular method. So we'll keep in mind each and everything that user requirement concerning implementation, so that we can give the a valuable product to the customer. Fine. Next step we have select general life cycle approach. So what do you understand by this step? That select general life cycle approach. Hurry up. Let me know. Hurry up, students. Yes. We will select appropriate life cycle model for our project. Yes, choosing to the details and requirements. Good. So what model is suits to our project? We will select that model, that methodology, that technique. Fine. So last step under this is review all resource estimates. Estimation of what? Estimation of resources, estimation of employees. So once a major risk have been identified and a broad project approach has been decided upon, this would be a good point at which the re-estimate or the effort and the other resources required to implement the project. What effort we have and how many resources we need for the project. So where enough information is available, an estimate based on the function point might be appropriate. And the fourth step we have that identify the project products and activities. So in general, there can be no project products, there do not have any activities. If we are producing something, that there will be activities. Clear? If we are doing something, that means we perform some activities. If there is no product, then there is no activities. So wherever possible, we are also to ensure a reverse. We can say if there is no activity, then there is no product. That there are no activities that produce a tangible product. Identifying all the things the project is to be create helps us to ensure that all the activities we need to carry out are accounted for. So under this we have first identify and describe project products or deliverables. We'll identify which kind of product we need to deliver, what is the final output, what is the final outcome. Fine. So secondly, we have document generic product flows. Means we will have user requirements, we will have overall system specification. Fine. Like here I'm going to draw. Oh. Like this. This is the structure. Like this kind of structure. This kind of flow. Say here we have user requirements. Fine. User requirements. And here we have overall system specification. That overall system specification. Here we have module design. Module design. Here we have module code. And here we have integration system test cases. Integration system test cases. I'm writing the short form just for the understanding that after that we have integrated tested software. Integrated tested software. Fine. So this is the flow, how we can document a generic product flow. This is our documentation, how we can show our flow that firstly we gather the user requirements, after that we have the overall system specification, after that to getting the specification we will create different modules and design for different modules, after that we have code for that modules, and side by side we are integrated all the test cases, all the system. Fine, all the different modules we are collecting, all integrate all, and at the end we have integrated tested software. Fine. So next we have recognize product instances. The same thing, that is product flow design fragment, relates to the more than one instance of a particular type of product. So an attempt should be made to identify each of those instances. Fine. Next we have produce ideal activity network. So now we have this kind of flow. When we linked all the terms, all the nodes into a network. So what is that? That produce ideal activity networks. We have different activities. We connect those activities. If we are working on a particular activity, then we will ensure that the activities before this activity should be completed before the completion of this. Before the completion of the current one. The previous activities should be completed. Fine. So we will create the network between all those activities. So if I'm talking about this diagram, suppose I have these activities in the previous step. Now I'm working on this, so these should be completed at that time, or this particle should be completed before completion of this. Fine. So next we have modify ideal to take into account need for stages and checkpoints. Means the approach of sequencing activities described and here that encourages the formulation of a plan which will minimize the overall duration or elapsed time for the project. So it assumes that the activity will start as soon as the preceding ones upon which it depends have been completed. I hope till step 4 is clear to everyone. These are very basic steps. So next is estimate effort for each activity. So under this we have first that carry out bottom up estimates. Now we have done each and every activities, we have created the network, we have created the design. So now we will carry out bottom up estimates. We will estimate each and every activity, how much time, how much effort we invested on a particular activity. After that, we will revise plan to create controllable activities. So the estimates for the individual activities could reveal that some are going to take quite long, some are short. So long activities make a project difficult to control. If an activity involving system testing is to take 12 weeks, it would be difficult after 6 weeks to judge accuracy whether 50% of the work is completed or not. It would be better to break down into a series of smaller subtasks. Fine. So we will revise the plan to create the controllable activities. If it is large project, then we will divide the activities or tasks into subtasks for the efficient work. Next we have identify activities risk. Point is clear to everyone? That identify activity risk. If we are performing an activity, then what kind of risk on this? We will monitor that. We will control that risk. So first we have identify and quantify the activity based risk. We will identify what kind of risk is that. We will quantify whether it is high, low, or medium, or critical kind of risk. After that, we have plan risk reduction and contingency measures where appropriate. So now we have decided that what kind of risk is this. We will go for the reduction of that risk or to remove that kind of risk if that risk is critical type or high level risk. So at third step, we have adjust plans and estimates to take account of risk. So we may change our plans for the risk, to avoid that risk, to remove that risk, perhaps by adding new activities which reduce risk. Yes, we'll modify. For example, a new programming language might mean we schedule training courses for courses and time for the programmers to practice their new programming skills on some non-essential work. We decided this team is working for that kind of project, but now the technology has been changed and we are going for the training part to learn the skills of that particular language, that particular technology. That is also how it will take more time to complete that project. So we'll adjust our plans, we'll modify our plans. So next we have allocate resources. Resources means, what do you understand by resources here? Hurry up, students. What do you understand by resources here? No? Resources is our employees, our staff. Fine. So money people we can say. So first in this we have identify and allocate resources. Firstly, we will identify their skills. After that, we will allocate those resources to a particular task. Fine. After that, in second step, we have revised plans and estimate to account of resource constraints. Under this, some staff may be needed for more than one task at the same time. Suppose we have a particular resource, but we have two activities to be completed. So for which it will go, which has a higher priority. Fine. That activity will be completed first before the second. But the decisions made here may be an effect of the overall duration of the project, where some tasks are delayed while waiting for the staff to become free. So ensuring some able to start work of an activity as soon as the preceding activities have been completed. So might mean that they are idle while waiting for the job to be started and therefore used inefficiently. So according to this kind of situation, we should revise, we should modify our plans. Again, we have review and publicize plans. We'll review, we'll modify our plans, review quality aspects of the project plan, document plans, and obtain agreement. So under this, that review quality aspects of the project plan, that a danger when controlling any project is that an activity can reveal that and earlier activities were not properly completed and needed to be reworked. So the quality aspects of the project plan should be reviewed. Secondly, we have document plans and obtain agreement. What changes done in the requirements that we have already fixed, and in the initial phase, each and everything should be documented. Fine. So at the 9th step, we have execute our plan. So now we have our final plan, we'll execute that. And at the 10th step, we'll lower level of plannings. Fine. So this is all about the stepwise project planning. Now we have our next topic, that is software process and software process models. We'll discuss in the next slide that what is software process. So in this slide we have different process models that you have already studied in the software engineering, that is prototyping, spiral model, waterfall model. I hope you all clear the concepts of all these models. So next, software process. So as we know, what is process? Any program in execution is called process. Fine. So a software process, also known as software methodology, is a set of related activities that leads to the production of the software. So these activities may involve the development of the software from the scratch or modifying an existing software. So maybe we are starting from the scratch, we are working on new software, fine, or maybe it is maintenance part of any existing software or modifying an existing software. So for each software process, we have these following 4 activities. That is software specification, software design and implementation, software validation and verification, software evolution. So what we do in the software specification, as you all know, create a SRS document, that is software specification. What are the requirements of the customer? We create a document, we sign that document from the customer and from the coding team also. So secondly, we have software design and implementation. After the SRS documentation signed, we are working on the project, we design the model, working on that model to implement the project. And the third step, we have software verification and validation. What is the difference between verification and validation? What is software verification and what is software validation? Hurry up. Hurry up, students. Let me know. Verify what? Verify training, validation, testing. Testing is the product meeting the specification and requirements. Is verification. Okay. Software verification is we verify that what we are doing, and when we have completed a task, we check its validation, whether it is valid product or not. Clear? So at last we have software evolution. And what is under this? If there is any need to change anything, to modify anything, to upgrade anything, then all these things comes under this activity, that is software evolution. So next we have software process models. And we all know about the software process models, that a software process model is simplified representation of software process. Each model represents a process from a specific perspective. So we are going to take a quick glance about very general process models. So these models are abstractions of the process that can be used to explain different approaches of the software development. They can be adapted or extended to create more specific processes. So in the previous slides, we were discussing about the software process and 4 main activities. And that 4 main activities are actually comes under all the software process models, but just the steps, the criteria is different for each and every software process model. So the question is there that how we can choose a particular process model according to taste of our project. After that, we have process activities. So the 4 basic process activities are specification, development, validation, and evolution, that we have already discussed, are organized in differently in different development processes. This is different for waterfall model, this is different for agile, different for spiral. Fine. And it varies according to the size of software also, whether it is small project, whether it is large project, and medium sized project. And at the end, we have choice of process models. And we have already discussed that how we can choose a process model. The word process is sometimes used to be emphasized the idea of the system in action. So in order to achieve an outcome, the system will have to execute one or more activities. This is its process. Fine. So students, this is all about today's class.